Now, Times Now spoke to experts on how they are viewing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to China and the bilateral ties between the two countries.
Relationship as Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in China, and we are here in Beijing bringing you live coverage of all developments connected with the visit. With us as of now is Mr. Victor Gao. He is chairman of China Energy Institute and more famously the former English translator of Deng Xiaoping, who is actually announced as Xiaoping. And also with us is Dr. Jemin Jacob. He is assistant director for the Institute of Chinese Studies in Delhi. So the Indian perspective and the Chinese perspective, I moderate. You see,
thank you.
The visit of Prime Minister Modi is perhaps not beginning on the best of notes. Global Times, the official mouthpiece of the Chinese political ruling party, has said that Prime Minister Modi is playing petty politics by going to Arunachal Pradesh. Is this the right timing on the part of Global Times to have said that in an editorial, Mr. Gao?
I think China is warmly welcoming Prime Minister Modi's visit to China. This is a very important visit. And on China-India relations, we need to focus on the big things. That is, both are two largest populations in the world, and China and India need to develop a friendly relationship. This is not only good for China, but also for India, but also for the world at large. So let's focus on the positive side, on China-India relations. Let's do whatever we can to promote friendship, establish greater trust, and make sure that we are two great neighbors.
That's a good thing to say. That's good thing to say. But Jacob, you see, Indian government has issued a demarch to the Chinese ambassador only yesterday about this Belt Road initiative which China has started. It begins with Pakistan. You know, China is building roads along the Pak-occupied Kashmir, which India has really not liked. So when Prime Minister Modi is coming, Chinese daily, which is associated with the ruling party, is calling his politics petty because he visited Arunachal Pradesh. On the other side, the Indian government is actually issuing a demarch to the Chinese ambassador. Is it the best of the way to start this visit?
I think from here the visit can only go up then. I'd imagine. Of course, we have a serious issue about sovereignty claims as far as the China-Pakistan economic corridor is concerned. We have a problem with the fact that the Chinese have not taken into account our concerns as far as the China-Pakistan economic corridor is concerned. We are open to cooperation, of course, but you know, China must also be sensitive to our...
Victor, you think China is not being sensitive to Indian concerns in Pak-occupied Kashmir on this Belt Road?
No,
there are 20 countries, but why start with Pakistan?
I don't think so. I think the One Belt, One Road initiative will make sure that many Eurasian countries in Asia as well as in Europe will benefit. And India will benefit too. Connectivity and infrastructure investments in India will be helping Indian economy to uplift itself. And
but still, some Indian concerns can be addressed?
Whatever concerns there are by the Indian side, Prime Minister Modi definitely will raise them with the Chinese side. And I think between China and India, you know, diplomacy should prevail, calm minds, you know, stable minds should prevail. Whatever differences we may have, I think we can talk about it with the ultimate goal of improving friendship and building greater trust.
You mentioned investments. Jacob, I'll come to you on that. You know, entrenched bureaucracies, you know, see this India-China relationship from the security prism, you know, from the one war we had. You think that investment, foreign direct investment or in whichever way, or business collaboration between India and China could be that a panacea which can alleviate this relationship from the entrenched bureaucracies from both Chinese and Indian sides?
I think there is definitely potential for it. We have certain security concerns as far as the telecom sector is concerned. Plus, there is also a question of reciprocity. We need greater openness to the Chinese market. We do not have access to our pharma products, our IT services, and there are a lot. I mean, these are essentially blocked because of non-tariff barriers.
Right.
So I think this is an area where China will have to, walk the talk.
Right. So that's a big question, Victor, on this. I'll come to you. You see, the balance of trade between India and China is so adversely against India. You know, on that front, perhaps China needs to do a lot. And can some assurances be there in this visit of Prime Minister Modi from the Chinese side that balance of trade issue would be addressed?
First of all, I think the greater the trade between China and India, the better. Secondly, a more balanced trade between China and India will be more sustainable. So both sides should do whatever we can to make sure that the trade, while increasing, hopefully, more and more in the coming years, will be more and more balanced. It depends on China to sell more to India and India to sell more to China. I think achieving balanced trade doesn't mean that China should sell less to India, but it depends more on India selling more to China.
Right. So, Jacob, now I'll move on to the most crucial issue of the India-China relationship, the security issue, this whole border thing, which is so far from getting solved despite all these talks that have been happening. Special representatives have been there for quite some time, and yet no solution in sight. In fact, very provocatively, when Xi Jinping was visiting India, there was an intrusion in Chumar. You think that with this high level of engagement happening within a year, you expect that some level of energy would be there on that issue as well?
I think it is important to consider that as far as China is concerned, our relationship with China is concerned, it takes time. So I think we have to invest greater time. It's not as if we haven't made progress. We've had an opportunity to resolve problems as they crop up. But it is extremely important that the engagement between the two leaders is much more frequent than it is today. It simply cannot be the case that the prime ministers meet or the leaders meet each other only once a year or twice a year. I think we need to have a regular exchange, and that sort of builds up the level of confidence that the two leaders have in each other. The boundary dispute, I think, I don't see it being resolved anytime soon. It'll really require a great amount of political will on both sides. There will be both sides will have to give and take. I think we are getting there, but it will take time.
Victor, I'll end on the note on which I began, Global Times. This is the same newspaper which wrote in March 2014, when India was going through elections, that if Narendra Modi, who was in campaign mode at that time, becomes Prime Minister, India-China relationship would get a big fillip. And there was a lot of hope from Narendra Modi. He is coming here as Prime Minister now. Why this same Global Times calls his politics petty?
Well, Global Times is a major newspaper in China, but it's a newspaper. And India tends to call itself the largest democracy in the world. And China wants to have greater democracy too. And freedom of the press is very important. So I think let's give Global Times the freedom to say whatever it wants to say. But whether it fully represents the government or if represents the prevailing view in China for the Chinese nation, that's another matter. Right. I would say China need to deal with Prime Minister Modi as a very, very important global leader, not only Indian leader, and a great statesman. He says he wants to be India's Deng Xiaoping. I used to interpret for Deng Xiaoping. I know how important the leadership can play a major role in transforming the nation. Deng Xiaoping did that for China, and I hope Prime Minister Modi will do the same for the Indian nation.
Thank you so much.
Generating productivity and improving the livelihood of the Indian people. That's important.
Thank you so much. So this is a good note to end this show. A Chinese leader and a think tank leader saying that China also thinks in terms of democracy, and that if a newspaper speaks something, it can rest there, and that the Chinese leadership of the present perhaps sees a Deng counterpart in Modi, and they hope that the India-China relationship with this visit would be on a new footing and a new level.